So, we'll give some people a minute to see if they'll actually get in here. Well, there's no guarantee that they will, but we'll give it a shot. Because why not? So tonight we'll be doing we're going to be doing a VOD review actually for the two people that I have footage from Trine Rain. So I'm the captain of, well, currently co-captain of Trine Lightning. And for a couple of reasons I'll be doing it. This is Rain. This is our fourth team from Trine University. And I thought they could use some help doing some footage breakdowns so that they could figure out what's going wrong. So I decided that I would help with that. I thought they could use some help doing some footage breakdowns so they could figure out what's going wrong. So I decided that I would help. If you're in chat, feel free to drop a message. So at any point, so that because I do have the stream pulled up on my phone as well. So yeah, I'll be able to yeah, so I'll be able to see if you guys post anything that you want to talk to me about. So we'll just dive right into it, because I don't know if anyone's actually watching from that team yet. Hopefully they're going to. Let's see. Let's skip to where the map starts. Okay, here we go. Actually, we do want to hear the comms up to this too. Okay, so it seems like the comms didn't record for this guy. So this is Talman, or Talm OX7, I think, or XO7. He's a very new player to their team, and so I think this is the first time he'll be on main tank. So I'm not going to be too critical, but I am going to try to stop and point out things just so that if and when he watches this back, he can kind of like see the few pointers I have for him. Okay. So he's shielding for them to go through. That's good. Doesn't need to stand completely still. Good call out. Okay. No, sort of makes sense, but gets the kill. If I remember right, Talman actually spends a lot of this map dead for various reasons. Okay, they're calling for a regroup. It's good, they're not peeking too much. Okay. Talman and Augment should not. Okay, so Augment, you just called to back up, and you're continuing to push him with Talman. Now, Talman shouldn't exactly be going for it either, but you're also the one making that call to back up, and you're pushing forward. Either back up or don't. There's no in between. And don't call to back up and then not do it. Okay. Okay, so Talman, one tip I would have for you on Ryan is make sure you don't ever let your shield break. You can take some damage. It's okay to take some damage on Ryan. You can play inside of the armor health. You won't be able to do it as effectively next patch because armor is getting nerfed from -5 to -3 or half, whichever is the least mitigation. So you'll have to pay attention to that next patch, but at least for Sunday, you can take some damage on your armor if you can't play in cover or your shield's getting real low. Because as long as your shield has health, you can block an Earth Shatter. But as soon as that shield's broke, that Ryan has a big opportunity because that cooldown on the shield. Let's see. The cooldown on the shield, once it's completely broken, is 5 seconds. So that's plenty of time for an enemy Ryan to hit an Earth Shatter. Okay, here. That whole time you're backing up, as soon as that shield came back, I know I just talked about managing your shield, but when you're anti-nated, you need to put that shield up because you're going to die. And especially here, there's no reason that you should die. So don't let yourself get hit for so much damage when you're antied. Because you run the very real risk of dying at that point. Okay. That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that D.Va got demeched. At least I put her out of her misery so that she couldn't regroup. Or so that she could get her mech back. Excuse me. It was a nice attempt, but somebody had already done damage to her. Or she woke up normally. Okay. That's another good use of shield. See, when you use your shield sparingly like that, look, you dropped your shield for literally just a couple seconds so that you could, because you knew you didn't need it, and it's already back at full. So if you can use your shield sparingly, you'll get more uptime out of it. And if your shield has more uptime, then your team will have more uptime. And then you'll win. Or you'll have a lot easier time of it. Okay, here there's some trades going back. Good, you're following the Lucio. Okay, right. Oh, so that's how I died, or how the Rhinehammer got me. I haven't actually seen the footage from their perspective so until now. So some of these things where I was like dying, I didn't understand how. Okay, so let's see. I think my team should be at full strength. I don't think we lost anyone. Okay. Other thing I've noticed for you, Tillman, this is kind of a thing I don't think most people on your team do either, but I'm saying it to you just because you're the one I'm actually watching. I can tell is not doing this. When you're in between fights or when you're dead, you should be hitting tab on your computer so that you can see the rosters. If you do that, and you don't have to check for very long, just like a second or so when you have time, not only will you be able to better keep track of your team's ultimates, but you'll also gain, well, you'll have a better understanding of your team's ult progress for any of their ults. But you'll also know when, if you can't see kill feed for some reason, like I think when you die, you can't see the normal kill feed. So when that happens, if you hit tab, you'll actually be able to see which enemies are dead. But also, you'll be able to see any swaps the enemy is making. And doing that will allow your team to better be prepared to counter switch against any of your opponents. Okay. I'm sorry, Talman. I know you're new, and I know that this is your first time on Rhine, well, at least in the competitive sense. Make sure you're paying attention to the stuff on the corners of your screen, because Noah got 2 or 3 Rhine swings on you before you even noticed that he was hitting you. Also, make sure to swivel your camera. It's okay to look around. So like, across the middle of your screen, you saw the Reinhardt actually try to pin your McCree, but then you didn't bother to turn and look at him. Okay. Alright, this is actually the first criticism I have for Josh, outside of the fact that he wasn't getting any real picks on his own until the very end. So Josh, when you're making callouts, make sure you're repeating them, but they also have to be short. You're saying like, everyone else, go. I will stay on point. Like, you can make those callouts shorter. So I mean, so when my team is doing something and I want them to push forward, I'll say one thing you can do to shorten it up if you feel like this would be effective for your team is just say WWW and be like push 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 push. But the most basic thing you can do is say character name on point, everyone else forward. That's usually what I do when we're pushing a payload or something. Well, I'll say like on cart, everyone else forward. But if your team doesn't pick that up like they weren't, nobody else actually pushed up after you called it. So make sure that especially if it doesn't seem like they're hearing it, make sure you try to repeat it at least twice. So you should say it 3 times. Push forward, push forward, push forward. And especially if you're going to be the one staying behind, if you just say push forward, they'll push forward without you anyway, because you can just sit on point. Unlucky. So that's only the second call I've heard you've made, Telman, as well. And I'll have to see if Nick's footage has comms. But you can be doing a lot more with your voice. So like, if you notice someone is low, call that. Especially if it's someone like that is really important to focus down. Like say your team is attacking and people start trying to kill a tracer. Your team's probably not fast enough to kill the tracer, but you notice that you had D-Mac the D.Va earlier in the fight, and she's pretty low. So, and this is just an example. This isn't actually what happened, but in that case, you should be calling to focus the D.Va, because if you call it, and this is also the other thing about call it's, make sure you're repeating them at least 3 times, so that way everyone can hear it, recognize it, and then act on it. So, just some general call-out improvements for your team, and we'll have to see if I need to just have a talk with your team at large about communicating. Okay, this is the thing about your... Okay, Rain. Under what circumstances should you ever push the low ground? Oh wait, shoot, you're not watching. I can't actually ask you that. Unless you are. If you're watching, please drop a message in chat, because otherwise I'm going to feel paranoid. But I guess to answer my own question, there's not really a lot of reasons to ever push Horizon's low ground on this side. Like, if you push the left side, fine. That's a little bit more reasonable. But on the right side, you should always push the high ground, because high ground gives a very strong advantage to whoever controls it. And especially if you have an enemy team who's willing to set up on the high ground, if you go on the low ground and they're on the high ground, first of all, you're going to have a really hard time ever fighting them if they don't want to. But second, if you can push their carries off of the high ground, it'll make it a lot easier to focus them. Especially like Zen. Zen, especially for me, when I'm playing Zen, I love to sit up on this high ground, especially if the enemy is like you and they're not going to try pushing it. Because it basically guarantees my safety unless your ranged DPS can hit some good shots. So, you should be pushing the high ground more. If Bomb got Rosario. That was a good shatter, Talman. I like it. Don't know what that was. He stopped moving for a second. For several seconds. Okay. Josh, you were peeking and you shouldn't have been. Your Ryan was nowhere near you. Your D.Va wasn't in mech. Nobody could protect you from any of the damage. And you were peeking right in the middle of the open. Don't do it. It's so easy not to do. You literally just have to sit behind the wall. If we were really mean, what we could have done is your tank wasn't with you and all of you were still sitting here, we could have pushed into you because I was the only one down. They could have pushed into you, but they didn't because they were playing passively. But that doesn't mean you can just assume you're going to be safe sitting there. I deleted you, Reaper. I think I'm challenging someone else to 1v1 on the left side. Yeah, I challenged your Ana to 1v1. Just a hint, support players that, or people that ended up playing support for Rain, don't try to challenge other people to duels unless you're sure you can win them. And also, especially as main supports, main tanks, and main DPS, well, not so much main DPS, but you really shouldn't be challenging people to duels anyways. You should be with your team, usually, and especially as like the main supports, you need to be playing with your main tank or behind your main tank, not off to a side corner where I can, as Zen, float into the corridor and then challenge you to a 1v1. Especially since I'm taking the 1v1, I'm probably pretty confident I can win it. So, try to avoid taking unnecessary duels or putting yourself in a situation where an enemy can choose to duel you. That was just unfortunate. You ran in there thinking you might be able to do something. Okay. You actually did a good job there. You were waiting for your Lucio. Unlike your team, which is currently just feeding ult charge to our Zen, so myself and the Rhine. Okay. See, your focus fire... Okay. This is the thing I won't focus as much on in this VOD because it's something that needs to be worked out after you get your basic kinks worked out, because you really need to... The first thing you guys need to do is iron out your roles, iron out your positioning, and then you can start worrying about other things. But this is an example on 2CP of why your team needs focus fire. You all weren't focusing the same target, and so we just kept staggering onto point, and we take your win that should have happened in like with I think roughly 40 seconds left on the clock, which would have given you a full minute, to going into overtime and you're not getting a second attack phase. I forgot how you guys won this fight. Oh, Apis got picked immediately. That doesn't help. Cameron got until 2. Oh. That was a good attempt at a shatter. Yeah. Yeah, it took an ult from Nick to get that through. So what can I say? Push high ground more. You guys kept pushing left side. I think there was one time you came up center, I think most of the time you push left side. Switch things up. Keep your enemy guessing. Don't just stick to one side because you feel like that's the side you need. I mean, sometimes it will be the case where there's really only one option of what to do, but usually you should try to think about different pathing to get to the same spot, because especially if you end up running into less mobile comps like Bastion, which, because we're playing at a lower tier, is quite possible you'll actually see. Against static comps, you have to keep changing sides. You have to make them move, because otherwise you leave them in a strong position. Overall, you have a lot of major things I would work on first, like figuring out your roles, figuring out communication, figuring out how to use your ults, and just how to position as a team, because your positioning is just very all over the place. You have Nick, and you have Nick, who occasionally goes on flanks, which on Reaper can be fine, but a lot of the time he ends up trying to do something and not getting value, and then he ends up just wasting his time. So like he tried to 1v1 me, which could have gone well, but I was also with my team, and I think I was getting pocketed by my Ana, and so I literally just had to sit there and headshot him or Discord him and just throw Zen Orbs into him until he died. And that's not getting value. That's creating a 5v6. Other times it's like you guys are leaving Talman behind. He's your main tank. Even if Talman isn't used to the role, you still need to make sure he's in front of you when you engage into fights. You guys are all pushing in front of him, and that's leaving you quite vulnerable to just getting picked all the time. You won the last couple fights because you fragged out. So the last fight on first point and the last point on second. You got lucky because you ended up fragging out. But they weren't... You still lost significant members in both fights. You just managed to frag. Or frag back faster than we did. Which isn't a really viable strategy all the time. I guess we'll skip to the defense, because I can't hear comms, so I don't know if there's anything being discussed about where to set up. Or I wouldn't know. We'll look at it later, because there should be a couple people that might have comms. There's a nice anti from random, but I mean, that's to be expected. For those of you who haven't paid attention to the patch notes, I just noticed Alex do this. But Brig can no longer bash through shields. Do not try it. You'll end up wasting your cooldown, and then you'll be for 6 seconds without your stun. And while, because it may not go through shields, it may not, and it also only does 5 instead of 50, you still need to keep in mind that that is a cooldown, and is something that you need to keep on hand and use when you need it, not just throwing it into a shield. I'm hearing a lot of focus calls, but I'm not actually seeing anything being done. The Hog actually succeeded at focusing, but in the process, I got a boot kill on Alex, and Tristan has killed Nick. Avis got a little too excited. I got a little too excited. So which is it? Are you getting pointed or you're not? I heard both. You need to have one. If somebody disagrees with the call, fine. But you can't have the same person disagreeing with their own call. Especially like back such a quick flip like that. You need to give your team time to react to your call, and you need to commit to your call, even if it's the wrong one. Because, and the reason being, even if it's the wrong call, if you follow through on it, like, so in this case, you probably should have backed off and reset for second. But if you weren't going to do that, you could have still gotten time off the objective by fully committing to it. Instead, you guys half staggered back, half staggered onto the point, and you didn't get as much done with it. Okay. Here you guys are playing a bit too far up. Yeah, that was unfortunate, Talman. I'm trying to see if I should say something, because on the one hand, like, it's something you need to know, but on the other hand, it's something that I can't expect you to have known for this. When you're playing against a Roadhog, you need to be very careful about putting your shield down, because especially in a situation like that, it's just so easy for him to hook you, and then you're just dead if he does. So you need to be really careful about backing up against a Roadhog, or playing against a Roadhog. Okay, yeah. So I guess that what this proves is your Rain, you need to be a little bit more decisive in your actions. When you're gonna back up, like really haul ass and back up, or if you're gonna push in, really haul ass and push an advantage. Yeah. Let's skip it forward a little bit. Okay, I want to see if I can overhear any comments about this. Oh, this is where they played Bastion. Okay. See, look at that. See, this is what I mean by you need to commit to your decisions, because for better or worse. Like, look at our Ryan. What happened? We all committed to pushing, and everyone died. But does he try to back up? No, because he knows he's not going to. He's not going to be able to back up at the point he was at. So he decides to commit and try to get something out of it. And I think one of them got a pick on you. Yeah, look at this. I committed with our Ryan, and even though Noah got picked, I still got your Junkrat. And since our spawns are faster than yours, you're going to be at a disadvantage for the next fight. And that's just me, like, trying to get something, some kind of cat progress. But I got a pick, and that's really just gonna, I think, end up sealing your doom. That and your Bastion accidentally jumping off the high ground. See? Also, see, I know I fucked up and I said left when I meant to go right. But you know what I do? I end up committing and going left. Even though I realized it took me way too long to actually do that. It took me too long to correct myself, so I just went with it. Even if you don't think it's the right call, you sometimes just have to go with it. Or even if you're correcting a call, sometimes you just have to go with your original call because there's just nothing you can do about it. I pick, oh, that's the second time I picked the Junkrat. So Josh, I don't know what you're doing. I'm Lucio and I'm just beating you. What happens here? Because I know we win second or third fight. Oh, that's what happens. So, I'm going to back up because I really want to see what exactly happened with your Rhine. Oh, your Rhine was holding shield down, and I think even though he was getting pocketed by Mercy, he didn't have enough health to survive a headshot. So, yeah. Also, yeah, no, just... Okay. Talman, I can actually hear your comms when you talk. So, do more of it. Do more talking. Also, if you're sitting at 108 health or 208 health, please call for healing. Your healers are not psychic. They don't know if you're hurt all the time. A lot of the times they can know, but they're not necessarily going to. Or they might not necessarily be able to see you necessarily to heal you. Please call for healing. Like, as a support, it does help me when people call for healing if we're not, like, if you know you need it and you're not being healed in the moment. And then we just get, like, picks for days. Yeah, and I go and boot. So... Okay, so that concludes Talman's perspective. Oh, that's not what I meant. Who am I looking for? Right, Amshagar. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for... Oh, here we go. This is what I need. Okay, so this is the next, I hope the next map in the runner-up. But at the very least, this is Amshagar, Nick, as I know him. And we're going to be watching through his footage on Lijiang and see how things go. Also, thing to know about all these games, currently but all of these maps, they've had at least one fill. First map, it was random. Random user 14 was their fill. And then for the second map after Talman left, I pulled some strings and got the Barry Scurry, who's a Masters DPS player for or at least I believe he's a DPS player. I can't remember. I think maybe he's a Masters tank player. Either way, he's a Masters player and agreed to help us get some footage for them. But he does end up carrying Night Market, and then we win the next two after that. So we'll break down I think what we'll try and do is we'll try to break down the difference, what happened that made Night Market so different from the other two. Because we do end up winning this map, and it doesn't matter that Barry is like probably trying to hard carry. Okay. I like the comp, but the thing is, I don't know if Vsauce Thief is necessarily practiced enough on Ana to use her. I might recommend Moira for the immediate future. Just because Ana's abilities are pretty hard to hit, and unless he's getting... I'll look to see if he gets value out of like the anti-nade and the sleep dart, but those can be some much harder value to land than like Moira's just straight up DPS. So... Okay, let's actually turn the resolution. Okay, it's still lower resolution than I like. Also, I think Barry's on. Okay, so far it's been a little better job of sticking with the main tank, although I can't tell who's on Lucio here. Let's look back at the beginning. Also, I like, Nick, that you're actually using tab. That's a very nice thing. Okay, so Alex is on Lucio. And right here, Alex, I know it's a very nice thing as Lucio to go in and try to get some boops first, but chances are most teams you're going to run up against are going to also run a Lucio, so you're not going to gain anything by being entirely ahead of your team. So try to stay behind your main tank. Like, Lucio loves being aggressive. He does. He loves to jump in front of his team. That's actually something you can do, especially in mid-fights, if you need to boot tanks into your team to focus them. But at the start of a fight, let the main tank go first. Also, we do end up winning first fight. And again, you guys have to... You have... it was a lost fight, so I'll forgive it, but... You have to make sure to actually commit to these fights as a full 6, because you're committing with 3 or 4, and then the rest are kind of just staggering in. Or I guess not staggering, but they're moving in later. That was a good use of the dynamite. Ouch. Yeah, Barry's doing a great job of fragging back for you guys. He's got 4. Okay, because I am noticing it as a problem with at least more than one of you. Hit tab! Unless you're being shot at, which you're not because it's after a fight loss. Check your tab. Watch for hero swaps. Watch to see if anything changes. Look to see how your team's ult economy is doing. You need to be checking these things constantly. If you're not, well, you're going to have a much harder time. Especially when it comes to rationing ultimates, you're not going to know what you have and what you need to ration. That was a good dynamite. They're doing it. Our team's doing a good job of trying to frag. I'm around the outside also trying to harass. That was okay. Okay, I actually take back what I said about the very beginning. Vsauce, you are hitting some nice sleeps. Okay, so good thing that you're recognizing that Barry has more experience than you guys and is making the right call here. You can hold aggressively on chokes like this, especially if the other team isn't going to like move around the choke and are just going to fight you in the choke. It's very good for you because you can spam into them a lot without them being able to spam into you, especially with Ash's dynamite at your disposal. So you can take that trick from him and... That was a good beat. That's unfortunate. Or that was unfortunate when it happened on my end. Good job moving into the path. Okay, here's how a target focus again comes into play. Where, again, you're having trouble focusing us down. Now, we don't actually end up winning out the fight, but if you didn't have Barry or you guys didn't frag out as well as you did, there were definitely some points in which we could have tried and gotten some back or some frags back. So just keep that in mind. Mercy Lucio is not a bad support combo. He's just taking forever to switch. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay. Good on you of recognizing that, Nick. But you know what the real problem was? Your team went in without Mercy. Regardless of whether you went in or not, nothing would have changed about this fight. Because you were fighting 5v6. Or you would have fought 5v6 if you had shown up, Nick. Like, it wouldn't have changed a damn thing if you had been participating because your team had already lost before the fight had even begun. Those were a good couple shots, but that's not going to trade well enough. Nice job giving our support ult charge. Just kidding. If you're going to commit intentional suicide, don't use it using your ability. You physically hit the spacebar and jump off the map, because otherwise the last any ability that CC'd you will count as the kill, even if it wasn't. So like, there was a pro at one point who forgot to jump off the map when they were doing a tactical reset and killing themselves, and they didn't jump. And so the sleep dart that they had been hit with several seconds earlier counted as the kill. And that gave the enemy Ana ult charge that she wouldn't have had if you had just remembered to hit space. And this is why directional sound is very important in this game. Nick, I know you were focusing on trying to duel me, but nobody, at least I didn't hear anyone in the comms, call that there was a Reinhardt behind you. I could hear the Reinhardt in my left ear in this video for several seconds before he earth shattered. If you have to listen for the audio cues in your ears, because it does. Overwatch does do directional sound, so things that are above you will sound above you, and things that sound to the left or right of you will sound to the left or right of you. It's a very, very strong, powerful tool to use, so make sure you're using it. And that goes for all of you. Okay. I sort of see where this is going, but because I had heard that there were several times that Vsauce, you forgot to fly back to your team or forgot to fly to your Pharah. Personally, can't really blame you for that. I can, but I'm not going to. It's a game awareness thing. Currently, because you're still adapting to playing in a group of 6. It's just something you're gonna have to get used to, is like knowing where your team is and knowing that Mercy is a hero who is entirely based on escape routes. Now, to be fair, in this comp you actually only have one escape route, and that's the Pharah. She's the only thing that's going to keep you semi-safe from the ground level enemies. But it's something you need to work on as a team, and I don't necessarily think it's something that is going to be fixed if he just practices it, because it'll be a lot more effective if you guys practice as a team on doing stuff like that. Because Pharmacy is a surprisingly hard combo to run, because the Mercy has a lot of responsibilities, especially in a 6v6. She has a lot of responsibilities with knowing how to keep her Pharah alive, because the Pharah is supposed to be the carry of the team. But at the same time, she can't just neglect the rest of the team either. So you need to recognize that and work around that as a team. Okay, and this is why it's also important to repeat callouts more than once. If you had said, behind, 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 or Mercy, 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 here, or any variation on a way you could have attracted his attention, he probably eventually would have picked up on it and done it before he died. But instead, you guys said it once apiece and called it good, and he didn't actually hear and recognize it. And actually, when I believe Alex asked if you guys should switch it, and I think he would have been right to, because regardless of your Mercy, your Pharah is not getting any value. We're playing double sniper. Like, there's nothing the Pharah can do about that. Like, yes, Barry is a Masters level player, 3,500, far higher than Avis and I. But in terms of mechanics of hitting someone out of the air, that, like, we're in a 66 environment. We're going to get the kind of protection we need to hit those shots. And Avis is very good about that. That's why he's on our team now. It's because he's very, very good with hitting airborne shots. So you need to recognize that since we are playing into an environment that very heavily favors things that can control, but not just the ground space, but the airspace and sight lines, that you probably need to swap off the Pharah. And I believe that's the single-handed reason why you lost Control Center. Or, I mean, why you lost Gardens as bad as you did. Yeah, so I guess the thing from that map is just recognize that even if someone on your team is, like, and this just goes at any point, if anyone on your team is really good, just because they're really good does not mean that they can play into a disadvantage. You guys were not running, well, you had Ash, and Nick was doing a decent enough job when he could survive to try and put damage on either of our snipers, but you had a Pharah who could not do anything because she couldn't put enough damage into her tanks and supports before, or the DPS for that matter, before she got killed, or before you guys died. That was the constant there. Either you guys died really early or she died really early. I would have said Junkrat. Junkrat's a lot better for these hallways because you can just spam and people will accidentally walk into the grenades. But Ash isn't. Ash McCree, I'd actually go McCree here. It's a lot closer quarters, so he can get a lot more flashbang value. And his fan of the hammers will get a lot more value. Okay. You guys have to play with your Rhine. Okay, I've killed your Rhine, who overextended into our backline. I'm spamming scatter. I mean, sonic. I'm spamming arrows. Yeah, Nick, you kind of put yourself in a bad position. Probably last time I'll point it out, but target focus. That cap should not have gotten to 57. And it shouldn't have been as close as it was either. Now what happens here? I know I think I got a pick early here. Oh. I was half right. I got 2 picks. Okay. Yeah, so that was just a lost fight. You guys got dragoned. I think the audio cut out. Oh no, I had it muted. Yeah. Or Moira shouldn't have survived. I like the rotation. Josh, shorter calls. You don't need to say I'll touch point. I won't last very long. Just say I will touch point. Make it clear, concise, because otherwise you're going to clutter comms. And not that that's the biggest issue you have to work on right now, but if you nip it in the bud early, it will not become a problem later. So don't do it. Leave your calls short and make them simple. Unnecessary fluff is not unnecessary, to say it mildly. Am I just... Oh. I'm getting your supports. We're going to ignore his play of the game, because that's not important right now. But what is important is going over what happened on that map. So yeah, well, I don't know as much about what went wrong on Control Center. I think it was mostly that you guys take so long to finish fights, we get regroups or stagger fight wins. So make sure you're focusing targets. I don't care who's doing it, but somebody needs to be saying like D.Va, 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 or Tracer, 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 or get Tracer on a backline, Tracer on a backline, Tracer on a backline. Anything. Your comms are mostly quiet. That's a decent enough idea, but it's pretty hard to shoot like that. So if you're going to do something like that, honestly, I'd just concussion mine up there. Personal preference thing. Moving on. Good job leading your shots and leading your concussion. That's unfortunate. God, my nose is clogged. So how did that fight go wrong? If I had to pick one thing, Junkrat, you probably didn't need to go with the D.Va after me. I was by myself. I would have stayed and tried to put damage into the tanks. Because your tank line died faster than ours did, and therefore we won. Or at least your main tank. Oh, and then I got stagger kills. Oh yeah, I remember this was really bad for you guys. Like, I think it was real bad. You got a Lucio, but I trade back immediately with your Widow. That was unfortunate on your end, but we also got the grandma, so. No, was it here it got really bad? It might have been. Yeah, I got your Ana who's out of spawn. We did end up backing off. Oh yeah. No. Okay, similar to how we've been talking, like you guys have been talking about alt usage. What is this, Reptiger? What are you waiting for? It's an easy fight win. Easy. Get 1 or 2. Fight win. Done. End of story. Get stagger kills. Make it even harder for them to try and contest. Points like Dorado and other things can snowball if you get lots of stagger kills. If you can just keep getting stagger kills every 10 seconds, the enemy's never going to be able to fight you as a full 6 unless they get some picks. So you need to be using your ults proactively. I think the only things I've seen used were an Infrasight. I know I saw 2 Infrasights. I think I saw a D.Va bomb. I don't know. I think I heard a sound barrier because he was complaining about not getting it. not getting anyone with it. And I haven't earned nano boost. So the only person, I guess, up until this point where Nick decides to use his, you've currently used primarily 2 ults. And an ult, that all it does is give you position for the enemy, which is fantastic, granted, in some cases. But for you guys, it wasn't even able to be utilized correctly. And on top of that, you have a bunch of ults that charge really fast, but you're not using like they charge fast. Junkrat Tire can almost be charged every fight, especially if you keep snowballing the fights. You'll get that Rip Tire real quick. Like, I bet you'll have this by the time you cap second. So lucky your mine was right there. A glitch. See, and I think it took you under 2 minutes to charge that, which is good. Like, you have to use these things, like, because if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll never get a perfect moment to use them. Now, this is where I use the Riptire to make sure they don't get another, to make sure the enemy doesn't get a recontest. We don't hold for long, but we do push you into overtime. So, like, again, it's not a whole lot of time, but we do burn time off your clock, and time is very important, especially if you want to finish the map. So you gotta use these ults more proactively. You're winning because we're making mistakes, not because you're acting on them. We're making mistakes. Yeah. Who's fighting on point? I'm not going to talk about the C9. That's not that important. Now, you do end up winning this and full holding for first. But no, you don't. You hold that second. Also, just a basic movement tip, because I noticed you a lot of are doing it. If the enemy is playing a Widow, do not jump. Or just any sniper in general. Don't jump. It makes it so easy to line up the shots. Jumps have a very predictable arc they take. There's a midpoint. And once that midpoint has been reached, it's very easy to tell where they're going to land and therefore line up the shot. Don't do it. Try to crouch spam. Something I need to work on as well. But just remember to do that. Okay, I don't know why you set the mine down if you weren't going to use it. Also, Nick, this is just a tip against Reinhardt's. You are Junkrat. You have ranged damage. You don't need to be in their face to hit the mines. I know you don't because I've seen you do it without getting up in his face. Just stand back and let the mines do the work. You're making it harder than it needs to be, or more risky than it needs to be. No, you did fold first. Why did I think you didn't? Okay, so we're gonna take one last look at some footage. I just gotta find it. Oh, here we go. All we're gonna do is rewatch the first map with sound. Because there's no reason to rewatch the footage normally. Okay. First thing I want to address is if you have to focus on shots, if you have to focus on shots, it's probably not a character you should be playing. Because your primary, if you're going to be shot caller, Josh, that needs to be your primary focus. Everything else is secondary. Like, I'm not going to play Farah probably for a little bit, at least until I get better with her. Why? Because I don't shot call as much on Farah because I'm too focused on flying indefinitely. You have to realize your handicaps and make sure you're not exposing them. Okay, it's unfortunate that this stream is broken. So this is their fill. He's on D.Va for this map. And I think he ends up playing support on their defense. Okay. Okay, now that I can actually hear comms for this map, without burying them, you guys need to be decisive. Even without Lucio, I mean, Lucio makes it a lot easier to be decisive because he speed boosts and you commit with it, and it's a lot harder to not do that. But, regardless, you need to commit. You had a couple half-assed attempts at saying, "Oh, let's go forward," and then people didn't actually end up going forward, and then you just kind of like, and then we pushed into you because we had advantage and got picks, and we'll fight out because of that. Okay, so see that Josh just did. We're gonna high go. We're gonna push him out. Perfect. That is the perfect shot call. And I'd even added a 1-2-3 go to the mix. But that is the kind of shot calling you need to do every fight. Every fight needs to do that. I end up getting a sneaky ass flank on Zen and getting 2.5 kills. That's unfortunate, random. A lot of there's confusion about that. Although that does bring up an excellent point. I do want to sit down with you and talk about how to set up your roster, because you can't just be switching all the time. Boostia! Oh! Okay, but yeah, that's just unfortunate. But you win, so it doesn't matter, does it? Oh, that's great. Way to call the regroup after everyone on your team is dead, man. You gotta be a lot more proactive. You should have backed up before you even high nooned. Or actually, after you high nooned would have been fine too. But instead, you just staggered yourself. You played yourself. So whoever the viewer is that joined at some point, I don't even know when, I'm doing a footage review for Trine Rain, the 4th team at Trine University for Overwatch, and I'm the captain of their 3rd team, and I'm the co-captain of the 3rd team. And I'm doing this as a personal favor to them. Okay, hello, I love dogs too. How do you counter a Bastion? It depends. If we're a defensive setup on Lunar Colony, like as going on here, I mean, not that my team's playing a Bastion, but how to go about countering that is making sure we're moving or playing where the Bastion can't see us. So usually a good Bastion will set up on the high ground. So we'd go to the left, we'd go right underneath right side, and where they can't shoot us. And then at some point, we're either going to be able to just, they're going to either have to come off the high ground and actually fight us, or we can just like eventually get like, we usually run an Ana and D.Va, so we try and sleep him and D-Matrix damage and get an anti-nade on him. Just focus him. If it's something like a payload map, you probably need something more like a lot of range damage threat. So like a Hanzo, and probably a Junkrat that are taking opposing angles that can fire down onto the cart. If they run double shields, they're actually still pretty vulnerable, especially with Junkrat, because against Junkrat, they're not really going to be able to shield all the damage. Like, I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to break the Rain shield if he manages to shield well, but eventually you should get enough damage to build Riptire, and in that situation, you probably just need to play around getting a Riptire, and then hope you can actually, and then play to get the Riptire onto the cart, probably by having your D.Va D-Matrix the tire onto the cart. Another way, I mean, you could probably even add another range damage threat or a Roadhog, because Roadhog's damage has gotten a little bit better against armor. And so if you throw some right clicks into it with some Hanzo arrows and some Junkrat spam, you're probably going to break through the shields faster than they can regen them. If they're both, or if they're not, or if the shields aren't facing the same way. So, like, I imagine what you're thinking is that the Orisa shield's in front and the Rain shield is right behind that. So, as soon as the Orisa shield drops, the Rain puts his shield up. If that's the case, you just get angles behind the Orisa shield, because then the Rain will have to focus his shield on it too, or like on the backside, to prevent them from getting picked from the back behind them. And at that point, you can just focus on one shield and they won't have the shielding to stop you. And usually there's a little... Okay, bye. Thanks for dropping by. I don't know why you're gonna push. I'm the only one down. You're not even at full strength yet. But another thing I'd like to say is, make sure your callouts aren't cluttering the comms. You don't need to like start screaming because you're in danger, Nick. Because I know that's you. Don't scream just because you're getting shot at. Everyone's getting shot at, man. Atrium. I haven't done it yet because nobody's asked. I'd be interested in doing that. I don't have a... I will warn you, I'm not exactly the highest ranked player. I just happen to be on a collegiate team. But I do think I know the game well enough to at least provide some decent pointers. So, I mean, if you want to like PM me, I could like, I think, well, actually I don't know how to do PMs, but I could probably work something out with you. Or I could do a 1v1 at some point, but yeah, I could do that. Just yeah, I'm gonna finish up this and then I can probably like figure something out with you if you're still here. Oh wait, if you're here, did you mean 1v? Do you do 1v1 or did you mean 1-on-1? So like, I'm just coaching you specifically, or did you mean like you want to fight me and then give you some tips? Oh sure, I could do that. How about I finish this up and I can hop on and do that. Does that sound good? Because I'm finishing this up for team. Okay, yeah, sounds good. So yeah. Just give me this finishes up pretty quick, or actually, yeah, this shouldn't take too much longer because I probably won't watch the second attack that my team ends up doing. Okay. I like that you called that Josh. Audio got desynced. Less irrelevant talking, more effective call outs. Say regroup as much as we can or something like that. Don't just be like, oh darn, and then talk about your loss. Don't focus on your losses, focus on what you can do to win. Okay. Also, you want to know something? So, yes, the Reaper will end up carrying this fight. But the you know why the last fight went so well for you without this ult? Because you guys actually had target calls. And you actually followed up on those target calls. And then you actually almost won. Because you actually had a priority. Yeah, this is much easier to tell what's going on with your guys' comms mixed in. Jeez. Now let's see how this roll goes so badly for you guys. From the comms perspective. I know I pointed out last time this happened, but look at the commit from my team. We were down a person, we're committing anyways. We're at a disadvantage and we know it, but we're going to commit because that's what the call was. And we do actually end up winning out. Oh. Shit. Oh, there we go. Okay, decent enough pick. I disagree. Mercy Berg is not a good healer combo. Like, this will come more important for you guys later, but you need to make sure that your character synergies are in place. Mercy and Brig do not synergize at all. Not only are they both extremely low healing, okay. And again, you guys are focusing too much on a mistake. If a mistake happens, let it go. Talk about it afterwards. Don't talk about it in the mid-match. You're gonna you don't have any target calling because you're too busy focusing on what Talman did wrong instead of focusing on avoiding the Hanzo dragons. That's just unfortunate. You flew to try and get to your teammate, and yeah. Yeah. So, really, your comms just need to be cleaned up on that end. Like, really bad comms. You can't focus on mistakes mid-fight or mid-match. You have to. You can talk about them afterwards, like I'm talking to you about them now, but you can't focus on the mid-match because otherwise they will get in the way of more important calls and decisions. Okay, so let's see. Atrafilm, are you still in chat? Okay. Do you want to just... I don't know if you want to send me your BattleNet or if you want to do something specific or if you want to do it on stream or not. Oh wait, yeah. You can just PM me. I forgot that was a thing. I haven't done PMs on here in so long. Actually, I think because the purpose of this stream was for coaching someone else or coaching Rain, I'll just end stream and I'm gonna add you right now and then I'll get online in just a second. Sure, we can do that. Anyway, I'm gonna cut stream. Thanks for everyone for watching, and Rain, I hope you're ready for your match on Sunday because it will be a storm.